All right, welcome everyone to the deep dive. You guys are here because you want to get to the bottom of things, right? Like understand the big picture without drowning in all the tiny details.
That's exactly it. We want to cut through the noise.
That's what we do here. And today we're diving deep, really deep into a moment that, well, kind of shook the world, you know? Edward Snowden's 2013 revelations about the NSA, the National Security Agency, and their, well, surveillance programs.
And our source material for this deep dive is a really interesting YouTube video transcript that breaks down everything. Snowden's actions, the fallout, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the whole story. And our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to, first of all, understand what Snowden actually revealed, like the specifics.
Definitely. We need to grasp the extent of his disclosures, why they caused such a global uproar.
Right, why people freaked out. And then, maybe even more importantly, we got to figure out what's changed since then and what hasn't. I mean, it's been, what, over a decade?
Over a decade. And technology's changed so much. Our understanding of privacy, digital privacy especially, has evolved too.
Big time. But before we go there, I want to throw out a little curveball, something to think about. Snowden wasn't just like some random hacker dude living in his mom's basement.
He wasn't some outsider attacking the system.
Not at all. His family, get this, had deep roots in U.S. government service, like generations of service working in those institutions.
You can imagine, when the news broke, it was a complete shock to everyone who knew him.
Total betrayal, right? I mean, from their perspective. Okay, so let's rewind. What did Snowden actually leak? What kind of information are we talking about?
And the big question, why? Why would someone with his background, with his family history, risk everything to expose these secrets?
Seriously, and how did he even pull it off? I mean, we're talking about outsmarting some of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies in the world.
Yeah, let's go back to June 2013. That month, things went crazy. The Washington Post and The Guardian, two very reputable newspapers, dropped these bombshell articles.
Huge articles based on a ton of leaked documents. And not just like rumors or hearsay. These were hard facts, straight from the NSA's file.
Right. Detailed documents, leaked by an anonymous source at the time, revealed a system of surveillance that was way more extensive than anyone had imagined.
When we say extensive, we mean like mind-blowingly big. The U.S. government was basically collecting information on everyone, their own citizens, people overseas, everyone.
They were gathering a truly staggering amount of data. We'll dive into the specifics of what kind of data and how they were getting it in a bit.
But first, the big reveal. 3 days after those initial articles, the source steps forward. Edward Snowden. And here's the thing. Snowden didn't even have a college degree.
Yeah, no 4-year degree, but he still landed these incredibly sensitive jobs at the CIA and then the NSA.
And he worked his way up, gaining access to like top secret stuff that most people in those agencies never even knew existed.
The post-9/11 world really changed the intelligence game. After the attacks, there was this huge push to prevent something like that from ever happening again.
Makes sense, right? Tragic event. Got to learn from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The U.S. government felt that if agencies like the CIA, NSA, and FBI had shared information more quickly, maybe, just maybe, 9/11 could have been prevented.
Right. So the thinking was, if we have more information, if we connect the dots faster, we can stop future attacks.
And that's the logic, the justification behind creating these massive surveillance programs to gather as much information as possible, as quickly as possible.
Makes sense on the surface, but hold on a sec. Didn't that kind of clash with, the whole Constitution thing?
Oh yeah, big time. We're talking about the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which, for our listeners who might have forgotten their civics class,
Or maybe slept through it.
it protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures. Basically, the government can't just barge into your house or rifle through your stuff without a good reason.
And a warrant, right? Like a judge has to sign off on it, and there has to be solid evidence, what they call probable cause.
Exactly. And that's where things get tricky with these surveillance programs, getting individual warrants for millions, potentially billions of people.
Talk about a paperwork nightmare.
Not to mention the legal challenges. You can't just say, oh, we suspect everyone. That's not how the Fourth Amendment works.
So what did they do? Did they just ignore the Constitution?
Well, according to our source, they found a workaround, a way to collect and access massive amounts of data without going through the traditional legal channels. They created these secret programs, operating outside the usual framework, overseen by a very select group of people.
So less oversight, less accountability.
And that's where Snowden comes in. How does a guy without a college degree end up with access to all this classified information? Well, after 9/11, Intelligence agencies were desperate for people with specific skills.
Cyber skills, right? Like hacking, coding, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. They needed people who can navigate the digital world, and Snowden had those skills in spades. So they were less concerned with formal education and more interested in what he could actually do.
Right. So he joins the CIA in 2006, gets posted to Geneva in 2007, and then moves to the NSA in 2009. But it's not just where he worked, it's what he did that gave him such broad access.
Snowden wasn't just some analyst looking at data. He was a system administrator, which, in simple terms, means he had the keys to the kingdom.
Like admin access, root access, whatever you want to call it, he could see everything on the NSA systems.
And not just see it. He could change it, modify it, copy it.
Yeah.
He had a level of access that most NSA employees didn't even dream of.
Okay, so now we're getting to the good stuff. What did he actually uncover with that kind of access?
Well, one of the biggest revelations was a program called PRISM, and this was huge.
Prism all caps, like a super secret spy program straight out of a movie.
Basically, PRISM allowed the NSA to collect user data directly from major tech companies. And we're talking about the biggest names in the game: Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple, the whole gang.
So your emails, your chat logs, your search history, everything you did online, potentially scooped up by the NSA through Prism.
And remember, this is back in 2013. Encryption wasn't as widespread as it is today. A lot of websites didn't even use HTTPS, the secure protocol for web traffic.
Right, so much of this data was just floating around out there, unencrypted, ripe for the picking. But Prism wasn't the only program Snowden exposed. There was another one even more powerful called X-Keyscore.
X-Keyscore, another one of those all-caps super secret programs. This one was all about internet traffic. Imagine a program that could track basically every website you visit, every search you make, everything.
Like Big Brother on steroids.
It collected data from tons of internet service providers, creating this massive database of online activity. And again, because HTTPS wasn't as common back then, much of this data was unprotected.
To really illustrate how powerful X-Keyscore was, Snowden himself said in a 2014 interview that if you had someone's email address, you could read their emails. You could track their web traffic live. You could monitor any computer they were using. You could even follow their laptop as it moved around the world, creating this unique digital fingerprint of their online activity.
And that's just internet data. On top of that, the NSA was also collecting metadata on millions of phone calls made by U.S. citizens.
Okay, metadata. What's that?
So they weren't recording the actual conversations, but they were collecting information about the calls. Who called who, how long they talked, when the calls happened, that sort of thing.
So even without listening in, they could learn a lot about a person's relationships and movements just from the metadata.
Exactly. And that raised serious privacy concerns. You can piece together a pretty detailed picture of someone's life just from their communication patterns. Imagine being Snowden, knowing all this, seeing the extent of government surveillance firsthand.
Yeah, try to put yourself in his shoes. He had a good job, a loving partner, friends, a life. But then he sees this massive system of surveillance, and he knows it's wrong.
And the potential consequences for speaking out. Huge. Losing his job, going to prison, becoming a public enemy. It's a lot to risk.
So the million-dollar question, why did he do it? Why risk everything?
According to our source, Snowden truly believed that the public deserved to know. He felt that a public debate about privacy and security was absolutely essential.
Like a wake-up call to the world.
He felt that collecting this much data without people's consent, without even knowing it was happening, was fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so he decides to blow the whistle. But how do you leak highly classified documents from the NSA? It's not like sneaking a file out in your pocket.
It was a carefully planned operation. Snowden, with his system admin skills, knew how to navigate these systems undetected. He downloaded the files onto his own devices little by little, avoiding anything that would raise red flags.
And then he had to get this information out to the world. That's when he contacted Laura Poitras, a journalist, back in 2012.
And to keep their communications secure, they used GPG keys, which are a way to encrypt messages so that only the intended recipient can read them. It's like a digital secret code.
Smart move, considering he was exposing a massive surveillance operation.
He didn't even reveal his identity to Poitras until they met in person later. Then, in May 2013, Snowden took medical leave from his NSA job in Hawaii.
Hawaii, huh? Interesting choice.
It was strategic. His office in Hawaii was smaller, less high profile than NSA headquarters, so his absence wouldn't immediately trigger alarms.
And from there, he flew to Hong Kong. Why Hong Kong?
Hong Kong has a more complicated extradition process than many other places, And it's not a close U.S. ally, so it offered a degree of neutrality.
A safe haven, at least temporarily. And it was in Hong Kong that he met with Poitras and two other journalists, Glenn Greenwald and Ewan MacAskill.
He shared the documents with them, answered their questions, basically entrusted them with getting the story out.
He didn't just dump everything online.
No, he was very deliberate about it. He wanted the information to be released responsibly, to spark a debate, not to cause chaos. He trusted these journalists to filter the information, to protect sensitive sources and methods. Our source even recommends checking out the documentary Citizen 4 for a really gripping behind-the-scenes look at all this.
So the leaks drop and the world explodes. Suddenly, it's confirmed. The U.S. government is spying on a massive scale. 3 days later, Snowden reveals himself. In the media, well, they go nuts. Is he a hero? A traitor?
Meanwhile, the U.S. government is scrambling to extradite him from Hong Kong. With help from WikiLeaks, Snowden manages to book a flight to Latin America. But as he's in transit in Moscow, his passport gets canceled.
Talk about a nightmare scenario. Stuck in an airport, no passport, nowhere to go.
He spent 39 days in the transit zone of Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport in limbo. Eventually, Russia granted him temporary asylum and later, in 2020, full citizenship.
So why can't he just go back to the U.S. and face trial?
The big issue is the Espionage Act, a U.S. law that basically says if you leak classified information, you're guilty. Period. Doesn't matter why you did it, what your motivations were, if it was in the public interest.
So under that law, Snowden's pretty much screwed if he goes back. He's admitted to leaking the information, so his guilt is almost automatic.
And what's interesting is that there's been very little accountability for the people who designed and implemented these surveillance programs in the first place.
Right, the ones who potentially violated the privacy of millions of people.
So where's Snowden now? Still living in Russia. And it's important to note, this doesn't necessarily mean he supports the Russian government. He's even criticized them publicly on social media.
Russia is simply his only refuge, the only place where he's safe from prosecution. But his actions had a global impact.
Absolutely. Snowden's revelations sparked a huge debate about privacy, government surveillance, and the balance between security and freedom. We saw protests, new laws, changes in how tech companies operate.
Like the USA Freedom Act, passed in 2015, which put some limits on the NSA's bulk collection of phone metadata.
And maybe the biggest impact was on technology itself. After Snowden, there was this big push for stronger encryption. HTTPS became the standard for websites, messaging apps started using end-to-end encryption, and a lot of devices now have encryption built in by default.
So it made it harder for anyone, including the government, to snoop on people's data.
But we can't get complacent. Tech companies still hold massive amounts of data, and it's not always clear how much access governments have to it.
Right. There's still a lot of unanswered questions about data privacy and surveillance.
Another interesting trend is data localization. Some countries are now passing laws that require certain data to be stored within their borders.
So they can control it, they can access it more easily. It's like a reaction to Snowden's revelations, this idea that data needs to be protected, kept close to home.
Regardless of what you think about Snowden, whether he was a hero or a traitor, you can't deny that he was incredibly brave. He risked everything to expose what he believed was wrong.
And he paid a huge price for it. Exile, separation from his family, constant scrutiny.
So to sum it all up, Snowden's actions revealed a massive system of government surveillance, sparked a global debate about privacy and security, and led to some real changes in laws and technology.
But the conversation is far from over. The balance between security and privacy is constantly evolving, especially in the digital age.
So here's a final thought for you. Given how much technology has advanced since 2013, how has that balance shifted? Are we more secure? Are we less free?
It's something to think about. And if you're interested in learning more, there are tons of resources out there about digital privacy, surveillance, and the future of the internet.
Yeah, do your own deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time.